Welcome to a busy Wesley Centre for another Wesley Impact programme. I'm Keith Garner. We're continuing a series visiting various areas of our work, and not surprisingly, I've come to the Wesley Centre on a Sunday, very busy with our church life and congregations. How important is it to have a positive and strengthening community? Thank you for being part of the programme once again. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in the Wesley Centre on a Sunday where people of all kinds, ages, cultures, nationalities come together to worship God in different congregations that meet here. Wesley Mission, of course, is a very big organisation, but our roots are in the Christian witness and the life of the church. We're the largest parish of the Uniting Church in Australia, in the heart of downtown Sydney. Our Wesley congregational life is one church community which meets at various locations across Sydney at various times of the week. All of our congregations meet on a weekly basis and include bilingual congregations sharing in Samoan and Mandarin and Indonesian. They're marvellous opportunities to recognise the wholeness of the Christian church. In addition, we have outreach events, 30 outreach fellowship, youth and speciality groups who meet throughout the week, where we share God's word and provide an opportunity for all to connect with those who want to be part of a caring and vibrant Christian community. One of our services has just ended and another one's about to begin. And the Christian faith is at the centre of all we do here at Wesley Mission. Later I'll be talking to Andy Chin, a pastor of our Wesley International Congregation that meets both here in the city and in Ryde, some 20 kilometres from here in northwest of Sydney. Andy's been a member of the team for over 15 years. And over that time, and they're a very excited bunch behind me, and they've met for 15 years, and he's ministered at various levels in terms of sharing God's love. And I look forward to talking to him a little later in the show. We'll also be joined by Craig Gower in the Wesley Impact studio, who'll sing an acoustic version of Softly and Tenderly. And I'll continue in a series looking at various characters in the Bible who are such an important part of the Christian story. Today, our focus will be on Thomas, the disciple who's often referred to as Doubting Thomas, I think a bit improperly, because although it's true that he asked to see the wounds in the hands and side of Jesus, he becomes the one who declares that Jesus is his Lord and his God. Now, I mentioned I'm in the Wesley Centre today on a Sunday where people of all kinds are gathering together to worship God. All across our congregations, which start at regular times throughout the day, from 9 o'clock in the morning right through the day, the message is similar, that we want to offer God's love to everyone through Jesus, and that we can all find an eternal hope and purpose in our lives, and that message flows through all the work that we do. Last week we saw the first of a two-part video looking at Wesley Lifeline. Now, that work certainly began in the church when one of my predecessors, the Reverend Alan Walker, answered a call at home from a man who the very next day took his own life. He was determined to not let isolation and lack of support for people like this be the cause of more death. And so Lifeline was launched, a 24-hour crisis support line. Since Lifeline began over 50 years ago, the work has spread throughout Australia and around the world. This is the second part of the Wesley Lifeline story.
In just 10 years of operation, Lifeline had become global. The Christian telephone service was now up and running in almost every capital city in the country and affiliated with more than 100 cities worldwide. The 1970s and 80s saw Lifeline expand to meet specialised caller demand. And our legacy lives on. Youthline, now Kids Helpline, responds to more than 6,000 calls a week. Ethnic Lifeline evolved into a state government initiative, and at Wesley Mission our commitment to help people get out of debt continues with specialised programs and ongoing one-to-one gambling and financial counselling support. We also continue to lead the way in suicide prevention and training through Wesley Life Force and support family and friends left behind through annual suicide memorial services.
With suicide, people need the patient love of those around them to throw their arms around them and say, we're on this journey with you.
We're certainly making a difference. We know from the feedback from people who've attended our training who said that often not long after they've attended our training, they've been able to intervene with somebody who was perhaps suicidal because they recognised the signs and they were secure in the process, they knew what to do. I think it's an absolute privilege to be a part of Wesley Mission. I found that it's a genuine focus on everybody here to do all the good they can, all the time they can. And I think people really believe and live that.
Today, Lifeline has been established in 19 countries around the world. In Australia, Lifeline centres answered a record 141,450 calls in 2012, thanks to a dedicated team of 1,000 staff and 11,000 volunteers across 60 locations nationwide.
The volunteer is the heartbeat of Lifeline. When we interview them initially, or they fill in a form, it will be, I want to give back. A lot of people that stay at Lifeline are usually people who have been touched by suicide themselves, and they've been called to it. I'm just really, really grateful that Alan Walker did start Lifeline. If you watch any program on TV, any problems, it's phone Lifeline, and it's amazing that it's become such an integral part of our society.
If you would like to see more of the work of Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can watch loads more videos, catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact TV, find out about our diverse range of services, and get involved to help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and stay up to date on the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
I chose to volunteer at Wesley Mission because I'm passionate about justice.
I chose to volunteer with Wesley Mission because I've always wanted to work with people who have a disability.
You meet friendly people. They're all people who are self-motivated and energetic.
It not only gives me a purpose, keeps me active, and activity leads to longevity.
Wesley Mission currently provide over 130 individual services with over 2,000 employees, supported by over 3,000 volunteers to assist over 21,000 families and individuals each year. Whew, that's a lot of numbers. So as you can imagine, we are always looking for more volunteers to help. So please, volunteer today. Visit our website, wesleymission.org.au. You will not only be meeting new and interesting people, but you will be doing all the good you can, because every life matters.
So you want to find out more about Wesley Mission, do go to our website at wesleymission.org.au. If you want to write to me about anything, especially questions about the Christian faith, I'm more than happy to reply to those letters personally. But now I'm joined by Andy Chin. Andy, you work as a pastor in the Wesley International Congregation, don't you? Just tell us when you began working at Wesley Mission.
I began working at Wesley Mission in 2001 as a youth intern, yes.
So 16 years of working here, but the roles have changed. You came in at first, was that after college, Bible training? What was that after you became a youth?
Yeah, well actually I started as a youth intern while I was at Bible college.
Yes.
Yeah, it was only after that I stepped into the youth pastor role, and then things moved on from there.
Yeah. So what roles have you held? You've held, at the moment you're acting as senior, but you've also been a pastor too, haven't you?
Yep, that's right. So started off as youth intern, then youth pastor. Then it shifted into focusing on missions evangelism as the pastor of that, and then heading up the Riot Extension Service, and now in the acting senior role.
How important is it to you when you're doing these new roles to build on the experience you've gained in the others?
It's absolutely critical. Every step in life is a part of a learning process. There are things that I know now that I wish I knew when I first started in ministry, but that's just the way that the kingdom works.
If only we could live life like that, but
that's
the
right.
truth is that we can't. Tell me what you most get out of the work that you do, because I will talk about some of the pressures that come with leadership in ministry, but what are some of the things you get out of it?
I think the most wonderful thing that I get from serving in ministry is actually seeing people's lives transformed. Whether it be someone who's sick, who needs healing, and then that healing comes, or whether it's someone who has no hope and no direction in life, opening their heart to Jesus and discovering eternal life in Him. In each of those situations, seeing people being transformed and their lives being touched by God, that by far is the greatest joy that comes out of it. And I think very close to that is when people begin to discover this sense of call and purpose for their life in the way that God has made them. That's a real joy.
Now, before I talk about some of those challenges, we're very much in the centre of this city, and what goes on in this building, not just in WIC, but across all our work, is very multicultural, isn't it? It's from people from all. How important is that to you?
Well, incredibly important. I think of the scriptures, particularly when it speaks of when Jesus returns, and that beautiful image of every nation, every language, every tongue. And I see in that a reflection of what God desires of the church now. And so when I think about Wesley Mission, I think the last count was over 40 nationalities across the different services. That's astounding. And so hearing different languages when you walk through the centre, smelling different food from different cultures, really reflects God's heart for the whole world, for all people.
Look, one of my predecessors made a decision really that this place would not just be an Aussie white church, but it would be a church for everybody. Aussie whites, yes, but people from all kinds of different cultures. We're also not just different in terms of the cultures, but we have different kinds of people too, don't we, that are attracted to us. How true would that be?
Oh, it's fascinating. It's almost like having a number of different churches almost, like with all the different demographics all in one space. Even though we're one church, it's amazing the different demographic, not just culturally, but even socioeconomically, even in terms of age groups as well. There's young, there's old, everyone in between. And I think, again, what's beautiful about that is it reflects Jesus' love for everyone, no matter who they are, what their background is, whether they're doing well, whether they're struggling, whatever end of the spectrum they are at socioeconomically. That's God's heart.
And they'll be welcome in the Wesley Church.
Yes, very much so.
Tell me then the challenges. You know, I said, what did you get out of these things? What are the challenges of being a pastor in that kind of setting?
I don't know where to start with that because there's so many different challenges. But I suppose one of the challenges that comes is being appreciative of the fact that there are many different cultures that are meeting together, that are trying to work together, and with that comes different nuances. But I guess it's what unites us that enables us to overcome those challenges. At the end of the day, we see ourselves as a family that God has brought together. And so, as with any family, you've got brothers and sisters and mums and dads and uncles and aunties that each are a bit different, but together we seek to make things work.
And as a pastor, you have to try to relate the gospel message, or what it is we're communicating, into a very varied cultural setting, don't you? Yes. And is that easy?
No, it's not.
I'm asking it because I find it hard. It is, isn't it? And I think our conversation would find us agreeing on that truth. But we do have to try to do it. And in a way, could we be described as an Australia in microcosm? You know, what we are here is what Australia is and is becoming, and we have to do that.
Yes, very much so. Every night I think about it, and it's like walking down the street in Pitt Street. There's just so many different cultures, so many different colours and varieties and shapes and sizes. And we're called to be a reflection of that. And we're called to reach out to a community that has that kind of varied demographic. That's God's heart.
And do you feel you are still on a journey as a pastor and leader?
Very much so, yeah. There's always so much to learn. And again, I wish there were things that I learned back then and things that I continue to learn now. It's a journey.
And that's often about people, isn't it, really? And Andy, I just want to say thank you to you and your colleagues and the important work that you do here in this Wesley Centre week by week, but much more in homes, cell groups, home groups, in so many ways. God bless you in your ministry.
God bless you too, Keith.
Craig Gower is now going to join us back in the studio, and he's going to sing acoustically with just a guitar there, and beautiful old gospel hymns, Softly and Tenderly.
Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. See on the portals, He's waiting and watching, watching for you and for me. Come home, come are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. And oh, for this wonderful life He has promised for you and for me. And though we have sinned, He has mercy and pardon for you and for me. Come home, come home. All who are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinner, calling, oh sinner, calling, oh sinner, come home.
Over the years of Wesley Impact, Keith Garner has had hundreds of conversations sharing stories of hope, resilience, love and the Christian faith. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is a collection of inspiring and insightful conversations with people who are champions in their field, including Commonwealth Games gold medalist Deb Lovely, tennis great Margaret Court, Olympic swimmer Elka Whalen, long distance runner Eloise Wellings, Olympic gold medalist Duncan Armstrong, and two-time boxing world champion Nigel Benn. Each conversation shares a unique perspective on sport and the achievements of notable sporting greats, and collectively presents a broad cross-section of athletes and how their faith has changed their lives. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is the second instalment of a three-part series and is available now from Wesley Mission. To find out more, contact Wesley Mission on 02 9263 5555 or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Please do visit our website if you'd like to find out more about what we do here at Wesley Mission and throughout our programs. The address is on your screen now, wesleymission.org.au. I'm at the Wesley Centre today looking at churches and speaking with some of the people who meet here each and every Sunday. So you're visiting Sydney, or you find yourself visiting Sydney on any given weekend, you're welcome to join us. As we have so many congregations, there's sure to be one service that will suit you. I'd like to continue in the series looking at characters in the Bible who are such an important part of the Christian story. Today I'd like to share some thoughts from the Wesley Impact studio on Thomas, the disciple commonly referred to as Doubting Thomas, but as we'll find out, he's so much more. I'm sure that amongst many of those people who listen to Christian radio, there are many who have no religious faith at all, some who I suspect know what the experience of doubt means. Now, Thomas is our inspirational story of a character from the New Testament. It's both attractive as a story. It's a story that might be helpful to many who are searching or struggling in their journey to faith. So I'm going to read to you from John 20, 24 to 29, where Jesus appears to Thomas, who had at an earlier occasion not actually been there. Now, Thomas, also known as Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where his nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, Because you've seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Thomas is among the 12, but we don't know where his story began. Thomas is introduced to us through 3 real cameos in the Gospel. Thomas was known as the twin, and that's difficult to define and what meant by that. It could mean he had a twin brother or sister, but it could mean also that he was a twin by nature. Some writers have even suggested that there were characteristics that made him a little like Jesus. Well, we'll never know that, but it's John's Gospel that tells us about Thomas through 3 major incidents. First of all, Thomas is pessimistic when news of Lazarus' illness reaches them. So when you read Lazarus' account of his life in John chapter 11, you see him being raised to life, when in fact he was recorded as being, it's Thomas who's got anything but hope in his heart when he receives that news. It's also Thomas in the 14th chapter who blurts out that he doesn't know the way where he's going to Jesus, and it clears the way for Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth and the life. And the third time is after his absence, when Jesus appeared to the disciples and he said, unless. He puts a condition upon what's necessary for him to believe. And what happened 8 days later is that Jesus Christ appears to the disciples with Thomas present and invites him to touch. But you'll notice if you read the passage, he doesn't do that. Jesus makes that invitation. But there's something marvellous as he makes that confession. It could be considered a seminal confession in the life of the early church. My Lord and my God. It's always said that Jesus is Lord was perhaps the first Christian testimony or creed. You know, it's a marvellous story of Thomas, a story of transformation. You could easily get locked into the fact that he didn't believe, he was doubting, but of course he wasn't there. And so he had to listen to the story second-hand. But there came his first-hand moment when he was there, when Jesus came and met with them. Remember, they're still meeting behind locked doors. And he comes and stands in their midst. And the very thing that Thomas had said, unless I am able, Jesus says, okay, if that's what you need, if that's what you want, then you do it. So the invitation is put out by Jesus to Thomas. But I don't know whether it's what he sees in his face. I don't know whether it's something just of him being there, but I know that the presence of the risen Christ becomes a transformational moment for Thomas. And so as he falls down and says, my Lord and my God, what an acknowledgement. He's saying everything that I've learnt to this moment, that I've seen in his life, everything that I've become aware of, everything that I've heard now through the story of my colleague disciples, I now believe to be true. He saw that Jesus Christ was the risen Lord. Now, Thomas is considered in the traditions of the church to be the first missionary to India. So you could hardly say this is the end of the story. This, if you like, is the next stage in what will be a lifetime of missionary service. What a marvellous picture to have of a man whose life was full of doubt, who came to a point where he said, unless, and Jesus reveals himself and he confesses. And that confession becomes transformational because it changes him. Perhaps it empowers him. Perhaps it equips him. Perhaps it sets him on the right way. It puts his feet into that missional purpose that will be his. But he certainly needed to know. So whether your journey is one where you really wonder whether all this Christian stuff is true or not, whether you're really doubting, whether you can believe it, the great thing is you've got a friend in Thomas because he went that way. And he came to confess, as I hope you will, that Jesus is truly Lord of our lives.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235. Or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for joining us today with the sound of lovely Fijian Christians here. I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little more about our congregational life and our churches, which are such an important part of Wesley Mission. You're welcome to visit any one of our churches on any given Sunday, indeed any part of our midweek meetings. To find out more of what goes on, please visit the website wesleymission.org.au. Also, if you've got any questions about our work, but specifically about the Christian faith, I'm always delighted to hear from people. Write to me at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. Do join us next week as we continue to share on various areas of our work at Wesley Mission. Thank you and God bless you.
Wesley Mission helps more than 2,800 families each year through our Wesley Family Centres. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.